right, gentlemen, we got 1 week down. We're now entering week 2, and for the first time, we have Thursday night football. How's it feel?
Feels pretty good. I mean, and we're gonna have UCF Thursday night football as well. That's where I'll be.
That's true. So we've got 2 games on Thursday. We've got Avon at Spruce Creek. Avon out of Ohio. They're a pretty good program up there. And then Father Lopez at Cedar Creek Christian. And then we obviously have a full slate on Friday night. So 11 games in total. 13 local teams in action this week. The only one that's not is Seabreeze, who has a bye. So let's break it all down. I'm Chris Vannell. That's Chris Boyle and Zach Allen. This is Quick Slant from the Daytona Beach News Journal. I want to start with an all-local matchup. We've got 2 of them this week. So we've got New Smyrna Beach at the Land and University at Matanzas. Let's talk Barracudas and Bulldogs. There's a little bit of a let's give away the spoiler. I think this video will be out after the story, but DeLand is now the number 1 team in our power rankings for this week. It only took them 1 week to get there. They began the year number 3, and then they go out and get a huge win last week, knocking off a defending state champion in Madison County in a close, really good game. What are you guys looking for here? Zach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think I'm looking for more of the same. The big question that we had about DeLand coming in was, is their defense ready to step up to the challenge? And when the score came in, it was a defensive slugfest, and it was kind of like, okay, well, DeLand's defense is here, and we know they're going to be able to score points with Tage Moore. By the way, he had a passing touchdown. I think it's his first career passing touchdown on 4th and 10 on a double screen. But I think if DeLand starts scoring again, they scored 21 points last week. When they get back to their usual level, combined with this defense, we'll see if it can be a consistent week in or week out thing. I thought they deserved the number 1 spot, and I think that is also gonna help them against New Smyrna Beach, and I think they're probably gonna win that game. I'm just excited to see if they can keep up what they did on defense last week against Madison County.
Christopher, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, not only did DeLand win the game, they went on the road and won the game. That's a tough trip to go all the way to Madison County up in the Big Bend, Panhandle area to go get the job done. Really impressive start for them. But they should not overlook New Smyrna. New Smyrna has taken them to the wire a couple times. Just 3 years ago, they went to overtime in a game that DeLand won to keep its playoff hopes alive at the time. And, last year that game was competitive up until halftime. New Smyrna's, put together some good game plans over the last couple of years to keep themselves in this game. They didn't play last week, so this will be their first action of the year, which I always think is a little bit of an advantage for the team that's gotten the game under its belt, knocked off some of the rust, and had a week's worth of tape to evaluate and correct some things. But again, this will be a really good opportunity to see what New Smyrna's run game looks like, and whether players like Todd Cutler Jr. and a couple of the other guys they have on that team are ready for expanded roles and can kind of carry the offense in the early going.
Zach's going to have coverage of that one on Thursday night, and then we'll go to on Friday night. Let's talk about his Thursday game. Zach pulling double duty this week.
Busy week for him.
Yeah.
He's young. He can handle it.
I'm just hoping for no rain delays this week.
We can talk about that when we talk about Matanzas and Flagler Palm Coast, because you sat through a doozy the other day in terms of rain. What are you looking for out of Spruce Creek when they match up against a really kind of a powerhouse program? I believe they went undefeated and won a state championship last year in Avon.
16.
Yeah, Avon went 16-0 last season, and I looked up the Ohio football rankings for this season on Max Preps, and they're still top 15. So this is a high quality team coming to the area, and I think the whole thing with Spruce Creek is their defensive line, their defense, along with Cam Oxendine on offense. But I think that defensive line, this is their early season test before they start playing some of the other bigger teams in the area like DeLand and Mainland. And so I'm just excited to see how Freddie Wilson does, Chadwick Cannon does, and Caden Woody. Caden Woody had 2 sacks in his first game this season, and I think when I talked to Andy Price, he's kind of the new face that everyone's kind of excited about. He's filling some large shoes there with Derry Norris leaving and then Freddie Wilson going inside. So I'm excited to see how he handles a great team in Avon, a big team as well. They have a lot of guys, but I just really want to see how this defensive front as a whole responds to a top-notch out-of-state program that they've never seen before.
Mr. Boyle.
Yeah, for me, I know we talk about Florida high school football as being, such an elite entity. A lot of these games where it's been out-of-state opponents against Florida schools have not gone the way of Florida, their teams. So I'm intrigued to see. I can recall, Mainland a few years ago. They played a team up in Alabama, Bob Jones, and lost in a close game. I think they played a team from Ohio on the road too, in St. Edwards, some years ago.
Really good annual powerhouse.
Yeah, about a decade ago, and lost that game. So I think it's a point of pride, not only for Florida schools to prove that they belong among the elites, but other teams know what Florida's reputation is, and so I think you're going to see a really good opponent here. Andy Price is well aware of the challenge his team faces. They come off of a 33-0 win over Seabreeze, in which they started fast. They scored their first 2 drives. They went their next 4 without getting into the end zone against Seabreeze. The defense was as good as advertised. I think this will be a really good test too for, we'll see if Trell Edwards is healthy. I think that's big for them. They hope to get him back. They hope to get Xavier Lucas back. So if they're more close to full strength, I think we'll see kind of additional dimensions to Spruce Creek than what we saw a week ago.
Yeah, and Spruce Creek moved the ball okay on offense, on the ground. I think Keenan Nephew had about 80 rushing yards. So
scored twice too, yep.
Yeah, he scored a couple of times. So you pair that with Trell Edwards kind of as your lead back, and you hope that only gets better. Mainland at Cocoa. Mainland is another team that had a bye last week, so we don't quite know what they look like yet. Zach was at their preseason kickoff classic a couple of weeks ago, so we got a glimpse. But what are you guys looking for here against a really good Cocoa squad?
It's kind of like you said. It's kind of similar to the Spruce Creek game for me. It's like, what are they really made of? They lost to Cocoa last year, 51-0. And Cocoa is no slouch. It's not like they lost to a bad team. They're the 3-peating 2A state champions. But they've had a week off to kind of get ready. I was, like you said, Chris, I was at their preseason game, and they also seem to be another defensive-led team. They beat Osceola, the 6A runner-ups from last year, and it wasn't like a preseason game where it's like halftime they send in the JV squad to face the other team's JV squad. Both teams played the full game, and I think what I'm curious to see is Mainland's offense, because in their preseason game, it really didn't come alive until the fourth quarter. They had 0 points until the fourth quarter, scored touchdowns on back-to-back drives to pull out the win. And also, they have the weapons to have a good offense. They have a returning quarterback, Sebastian Johnson. Then they have, a whole boatload of transfers at skill positions. You have Braylon Simmons, Chris Butler, and Jaden Parks. Butler and Parks looked great in their preseason game. And then I think we see how Marcus Day does. He had 3 interceptions against Osceola, which is unheard of. And so, when we were talking to Squatty Bell before the season, he was like, it's the Tank King show. I'm excited to see the Marcus Day secondary. So I'm excited for this matchup.
Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll be going down this way to see this game. Cocoa got a wake-up call last week, and this is a team that's really dominated a lot of teams over the years. You mentioned the game they played last year against Mainland. No, a lot of those guys are not there. Brady Hart, who is at Texas A&M, he enrolled early. He was supposed to be their starting quarterback this year. Jabin Boggs, who was one of the best receivers in the state last year, and he's a day one starter at FSU. Javian Hilson, who's going to be a really impactful edge rusher at Missouri. All these guys are gone. Last week they turned it over a bunch. They had 4 interceptions from Champ Smith in his debut. Did throw for 294 yards in the game. But I don't think any of us really saw Merritt Island not only pushing them to the wire. Merritt Island was within a play a couple of times of winning this game. They gave up a touchdown on the last play of regulation. Both teams scored in overtime. Coco ended up getting the winning touchdown, 30-24. So you wonder what's the response going to be. Are they going to come out sharper, crisper, not turn the football over, and get back to kind of what we've seen and been accustomed to seeing from Coco? Or is Mainland, getting an opportunity to get on the field for the first time, hit a different color for the first time this year? Are they going to take advantage of a team that isn't really in gear yet, hasn't really found itself yet, and is replacing so many different pieces? I think that's really a fascinating subtext going into this game.
There's another team that replaced a lot of pieces, that started 1-0 last week, and a local team. University snuck by Sebastian River in a game another one that came down to the wire after their preseason classic came down to the wire. They're traveling to Matanzas this week, a team that lost a Potato Bowl to Flagler Palm Coast in week 1. Zach, I'll start with you. What did you just see from Matanzas last week?
Yeah, I thought they were a pretty decent team. They kind of had a bad matchup. They're a team that likes to throw the ball, and they went up against a Flagler Palm Coast team whose strength of their whole team is their secondary. So they kind of had to rely on the run, and that's what Flagler Palm Coast wanted to do. But if they get clicking, they have Cole Walker at quarterback and then Ladarian Baker at receiver, who probably didn't have the season debut that he wanted. Same goes for Cole Walker. They really just couldn't pass, and I think the wet grass might have had something to do with that. But they're a decent team, and I think if they get it going, especially through the air, they can be a tricky team to deal with for a lot of teams. And so I think, we were talking about DeLand and New Smyrna. I think this is, a really interesting matchup, especially because, like you said, University just has so much new talent on the other side.
Yeah, not a bad debut for University either. Christian Mayhew, their new quarterback, threw for 191 yards, a touchdown. He led them in rushing as well. And you had a couple of wide receivers in Rojas and Maldonado. Each have pretty good days in the passing game as well. So still kind of working in those new pieces, but so far so good. Matt Trumbull got his first win last week as the Titans head coach, so he's looking to make it 2 this week. Chris, I'm going to go to you for this second of the quick hitter round here. Daytona at Vieira. Daytona gets a win last week in blowout fashion, 40-13 over Crescent City. What are you looking for with them here in week 2?
Yeah, we saw Jeremiah Hancock take a big jump, right? He had 3 rushing touchdowns last week. He's been an experienced player for this team. I think this is his 3rd year on and off a bit, but he started a lot of games over the last 3 seasons for the Wolves, and was 11 of 17 throwing it for 118 yards. Averaged over 6 yards a carry on the ground. They do that. They protect the football. They're going to be just fine. I think this is again, the team that I've been looking for to take a potential jump in terms of what their results on the field, given that the consistency of the coaching staff and some of the continuity of the players there. Defensively, they did a very good job against Crescent City on the ground. They only ran for 79 yards, averaged 3.8 carries. A lot of that goes down to Rick Namar Campos, who had 3 tackles for losses, and another one of their kind of leader players on the defensive end. So big test for them. I think Vieira is another team that kind of pulled off a bit of an eyebrow-raising win last week. They beat Rockledge 22-21, a district opponent of Daytona. So that's significant. The defending district champion as well in Rockledge. The big thing for Daytona is going to be to try to stop Eric Nelson, their quarterback. Threw it for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for 94. Balanced offensive performance. They had 182 as a passing and 199 rushing as a team. So definitely a ramp up in competition this week for Daytona.
After a 2-hour rain delay on Friday, Flagler Palm Coast pulled out that Potato Bowl win, and Zach stuck with them. until what time do you even get home, Zach, on Friday night?
I think it was like 1 a.m., 1:30. I didn't get
Yeah.
done writing though until like 3 a.m., 3:30. So it was a long day. The double rainbow made up for it though before the game. So that was fun to see.
Absolutely. What'd you take away from Flagler's first win?
I mean, I keep talking about that secondary, and that's that's their strength of the team. I'm kind of interested though to see if they eventually settle on one of these quarterbacks to lead the way eventually, or if they're just going to run two QBs all season. I mean, both of them were kind of game managers. Last week they did really well. I think that they only passed 12 times between the two of them, and they only had 3 incompletions, with 2 touchdown passes, including a 55-yarder at the end there to kind of seal the deal. So they're more of a rushing offense though. They only passed 12 times and ran 42 times. So it's and that could have been because of the weather conditions, but they have 2 high quality QBs with Ladarius Simmons and Caden Birchfield, and I'm kind of excited to see what route they end up in. Birchfield transferred from Matanzas, and Simmons came from Halifax after being at Flagler Palm Coast before. Or if they just keep this 2 QB system, it worked really well against Matanzas. So that's kind of the takeaway I took from their game after the extended rain delay.
We saw a playoff team last year kind of ride a 2 quarterback system. Spruce Creek used both PJ Miller and Jacob Lohman, who's, PJ Miller's still on the team, still quarterbacking them, and Jacob Lohman's now at Stetson. That worked. I mean, they did it pretty much all season.
Yeah, speaking of quarterbacks, just a quick note on FPC's opponent, Lake Howell. They're pretty excited about the kid they've got, a sophomore named Bryson Marbury, who threw for 78 yards last week against Haggerty. So he seems to be kind of the building block for that team.
Yeah, Flagler is hosting Lake Howell in that one. So that's all we got this week, guys. Thanks for your expertise. I appreciate you. And this has been Quick Slant from the Daytona Beach News Journal.